Here we go. Okay, hello. I'm checking the screen. It looks like it is just showing me. Let me see if I can make sure I get my gallery going. Everyone, thank you for your patience as we get this live stream started. Okay, let's see here. All right, we've got another person coming in as well. And another person coming in. I'm going to put you on mute so we don't get an echo. And I am hopeful that as we switch voices, at least to speaker, it will show. I'm trying to show the gallery, but let's see here if we move on into things, if it will change us up at all. My name is Joelle, and I am the Viberarian. I am here to elevate, enlighten, and empower. And this is a journey that I am undertaking on my own. And when I come on my channel, my goal is to basically share with you in the hopes that you too will be elevated and enlightened and empowered with something you may not have encountered before. So, my guest this evening is doing a work that I find so deeply valuable. My guest this evening is Sandy Beauford Muhammad. Sandy, hello. If you could say a few words.
Hello, welcome. I am so excited to be here with you all today. Always so excited, tremendously honored to be with Joelle. And today we're speaking about Family Mapping Constellation. I'm excited, so stay tuned, you all. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes, it's wonderful. It does look like we are getting ourselves in the view on YouTube. If anyone is in the chat and can confirm that, I think the camera visible people at least. We have about 6 guests this evening, Sandy, and I'm very excited because this is our chance to have a conversation about what the family mapping workshop was like for us, people who've attended. Now, just for a way of background, I have a whole interview. We've had a whole conversation on my channel, which I will put in the links below, where we talk really, you shared some beautiful information, Sandy, about like the work that you're doing, the principles that you're employing, and some of your workshop methodology. So I don't want to repeat that, part, but encapsulating, if you could just in a way that will help people understand the conversation that we're going to have this evening. What can you share about family mapping?
Well, one of the things I love to share every time I speak on family mapping simply is it is an intimate experience, and the individual's experience is always very unique. No one person's story is the same based upon their experience. However, when we walk away, we have so many aha moments, so many new awarenesses, so many new answers that otherwise would not have come through in many other modalities and sessions. And so tonight, I'm really excited to have our guests on today. We spoke previously just about, the process of family mapping, what we do, how we come to these aha moments. But tonight I'm excited because we actually have several members who are joining us who have actually experienced family mapping. So you're going to get it not from an intellectual, which I have a tendency to go really deep intellectually and how it impacts the life, your life, and your family's life and generations to come. But you'll get an opportunity to hear firsthand of experiences. We've had Joelle share some awarenesses that she experienced. So I love having these conversations because you're going to hear firsthand.
Absolutely. There's so much value in observing people's lives, like really at a very real level. Our primary processes are meant to be and to experience. And so the realness of a lived story, that telling, that narrative, seeing the embodiment that the story is telling through the storyteller is one of actually the foundations of family mapping, because Credo Mutwa, like he received the oral story from his lineage down and down and down into bringing it into be distilled in his entire experience as a child. So that goes to speak to the importance of the narrative and how the narrative is told, how the narrative is edited or then revealed goes a lot into then our now expression and the future expression of our families. So that's why I'm so glad to have each of you here this evening. So, just briefly, we have Kennedy, Edith, Anthony, and Jackie on the call. So, we're going to be passing around some conversations. I would like you, Sandy, since you know all of us through facilitating all of us, who do you think you would like to encounter first in terms of this conversation this evening?
I am so happy that you asked me that because I am excited to see everybody on the call. But when we have our young people coming in and having an open mind with this experience, she already knows what I'm about to say. And I have to say that I have been witnessing her ever since our initial encounter. And her aha moments that she shared with us, and mind you, Kennedy is who I'm speaking about. Kennedy did not even experience the fullness. Kennedy was a part of a sample session that I did over a year ago. And the aha moments that came through as she allowed us into her intimate life willingly and sharing with us. I am excited to invite Kennedy here today. And let's talk a little bit about her experience.
So, Kennedy, what brought you to this mapping opportunity? Like, at what kind of energetic space or opportunity were you taking?
Thank you, Miss Sandy. It's so nice to see you. And I'm laughing because I knew you were gonna call on me. But
I love that.
So same time. Okay, I'm sorry. Me and my grandmother are in the same room, so I'm about to move out of the room so it won't be an echo or like a conflict. But so pretty much I think I was just curious. Like energetically, I was in a space of trying to just try a lot of different things to just see what would come out of it. I really didn't know. Asia, which is my lactisha or Azaya, as some people call her, she told me that we'll be having some type of family mapping event. And she was like, you should just come. I had no clue of what it was. I had no clue about who Miss Sandy was at the time. And Asia was doing my hair. She hadn't been doing my hair for that long, but I knew spiritually she was aligned with where it is I wanted to go. And she had been giving me a lot of different insights and just helping me along my journey for a lot of questions that I had that I didn't know the answer to, or a lot of insights that were coming in for me that I didn't know what to do with, if that makes sense. So
Mm-hmm.
oddly enough, I was getting dressed to go to the family mapping, and my grandma just so happened to come to my house, and she asked me, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to some event Asia told me about." And she was like, "Oh, I'm going with you." And at first, I'm like, "Why is she trying to come with me? I can't go by myself." But then I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, let's go together." And I'm so glad she came with me because I definitely needed somebody to be with me during that time. I didn't have any clue in the world about what it was at all. So I was completely just open, and I'm like, okay, we'll see. When I got into the space, I mean, I was not necessarily afraid, but just nervous because I didn't know what it was. But generally, that was my energy going into the space. I was just open wide, if that makes sense. I'm like, well, we'll see. Let's see.
So when you were then in the experience and your grandmother was in the experience, um, like afterwards, let's skip the middle part to say your grandmother and you are riding home after this day. What was your conversation like?
So me and my grandma have very intimate spiritual conversations every single day. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I was trying to make sense of a lot of the things that Miss Sandy that that she helped me maneuver through. I didn't understand a lot of it then. But now I've experienced some of it, like life has just opened it up, and I have insight now about how to maneuver through what's coming up for me now. So at the time, the car ride home, I was just thinking, like, Grandma, I don't know what this, like, what does this even mean? Where did this lady get this from? I don't understand. So my grandma really kind of she helped me make sense of it all. So she reassured me like, okay, you're trying to make it all make sense right now, and it's just not gonna do that. So don't do that. But really helped me take a real introspective, energetic look at the situations that had transpired throughout my entire life. Because I was looking at it from a I experienced this, but not energetically how was this affecting me now and how did it affect me then. I wasn't looking at it on that level at the time. So the conversation with my grandma just helped me kind of get centered on what it really was because it really took me out of my mind essentially. It took me out of my body because I had never the things that we discussed in the family mapping, I had never voiced them at all. So for them to be all out and for the people around me to feel the energy that I was feeling, it was very weird. So essentially, I just needed some help getting back down on the ground because I was up in the air. So my grandma just kind of brought me back, real grounding, bringing me back to the floor. I went and got something to eat. I went to sleep most definitely after that, and I think that was it. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but it was long enough ago to where I'm trying not to remember the whole day. But
Yeah.
essentially, that was it.
May I ask how old you are?
I'm 20.
Okay, so you're 20. So just okay, Sandy, knowing what I know about mapping, where we're looking at intergenerational things, when you saw her grandmother come in the door with her, what was I know what your immediate was like, yes, but like when you were looking at facilitating that and realizing that there was support in place really for this young, naive to the family energy experience. At 20, you're very, you're very fresh in the patterns of your family. And there's still a lot of things that as a baby adult, you may not even know yet. So to have the elder presence come as well to bookend that experience seems like it was very probably powerful.
I would tell you at the time, the setting that we were in, I did not know her grandmother was her grandmother. She looks very young and beautiful and youthful. And I believe she also came with a friend. Was there someone else that was with y'all? No, it was
No,
just the two.
ma'am.
Okay. So I did not know. So when the question was asked, I believe we asked if there is someone here that would like to participate and tell their story. Kennedy was the one that actually came up. And so as we began to tell her story, she began to look at her grandmother. Her grandmother eyes are like looking like, oh my God, like this is my granddaughter's life. So we had, of course, representatives in the room as Kennedy told her story, and those representatives came and stood up and they began to speak in the voice of Kennedy's relatives. And Kennedy actually began to speak back to them, and it was in this beautiful play. Like, wait a minute, how do they know about my life like that? So I can understand from Kennedy's perspective, like, wait a minute, like, how are these people knowing who I am on an intimate basis? And I just met them. Like, I believe, Kennedy, you didn't know anybody else in the room other than Isaiah and your grandmother, right?
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Right. And so when the energy showed up in these representatives for Kennedy's life to help her to walk through, I didn't realize were you 19 at the time, Kennedy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Kennedy is the age of my daughter right now. I didn't realize how old she was. I didn't ask her. Um, but so beautifully, Kennedy is really like a matriarch underneath her grandmother. She's like a matriarch in her family, even at a 19-year-old. There's a lot of responsibility that she assumed. And so, what this process did is it actually forced her to look back on herself and her life from the perspective as an observer. And so to have had fresh experiences at the age of 19 and then making choices in life to be able to really fulfill things that she's wanting and desiring to do, and not feeling the ability to cut free of other things in her life to be able to have a life, at such a young age, that was like, it propelled her to wait a minute. You've got to look at where you've come from, understand from an aerial perspective, from an objective perspective of why you've come from this family, why you're choosing the choices that you are making, and how to choose. That was the beautiful thing that I saw come out of this, is it actually allowed Kennedy to make better choices, not from a pain standpoint, but from an objective perspective. And I'm grateful that her grandmother was there to help walk her through that, because at 19, who does that? Like,
Right.
who have so many life experiences and then have this opportunity to look at it from an objective perspective, and then from the age of 19 onward in life, make different choices from an objective view, not from an aspect of pain. So it was beautiful. It was simply beautiful to witness.
I love that. I mean, that just goes to show how much acceleration is available to us for the younger generation, like those who the Gen Xers have held space for. Let's just say between the harsher vibrations of our parents, the space that we've held that allows for this rapid shedding of things and recognition with a much more ease. I mean, I'm like 52 and I'm thinking about 19 and like in 1990, versus 19 in 2024, and what you can launch into is amazing. So, um, in terms of the oldest participant that you've had at a map, do you know about the age of the eldest and the
Um,
the young and the youngest?
That's a great question. I think Kennedy may be the youngest. She was 19 at that time. And the oldest that we have had has probably been, oh, you know what? I think Nikki's mother
Yeah,
when
that's what
she
I was thinking.
came.
Was
And
she was 80?
she is in her 80s.
I think she just
Yeah.
turned 80. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew you'd been like across the spectrum, but I will also say that this is the kind of work that I believe, unless it's in a private family group, that 18 or older is the appropriate, because we do deal with adult themes, a lot
Yeah.
of harm and trauma patterns that can definitely should be heard through the adult prism, so um,
Absolutely.
now, in
Absolutely.
terms of um, Kennedy, if you have any like thing that you would want to just give to anyone watching to speak to why they might want to go and have a map, what message would you like to give?
Well, my experience, I really didn't put much forethought into it. So it was nothing that really made me open to the experience before I had the experience. So the experience itself made me open to it. But I think for anybody that is aware of family mapping or just curious about family mapping in general, I think that if you are in a space where you want more out of your lived experience here and you don't want to be constricted by energy that doesn't belong to you. But like when you have an awareness that a lot of the things that I feel are not mine. Like a lot of the things that I'm feeling and I'm maneuvering through do not belong to me, but I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to get out of it. And you want some more clarity on it. I think family mapping is a phenomenal step in the right direction. Now, does it shift your perspective in a way to where you can no longer go back to deciding the same way? Yes. So it's almost like once you open the can of worms, you can't close it back. But I think that's for everybody's betterment and well being. So I think for anybody that is just open and aware and willing to live a better life, family mapping is for you all the way. Will it be easy? No, but I still think it's well beyond well worth it. Whether you're 18 or my grandmom, I hope she doesn't mind me telling her age, but she's 66 and she was beyond open to it. Like any event I go to, I bring her with me because she's open to it. She doesn't mind going, and I know everybody can benefit from being in a space where the energy is just high. So whether you're 18, 25, 65, 85, if you just want more, go to a family mapping.
Mm. Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you. That's beautiful sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you so much, sweetheart. So always wonderful to see you. And tell grandma I said hello.
She's in the call. She's tuned in right now.
I love it. Hello. Greetings, grandma. Love you. Love you. Is can she speak, Joelle? Is she do you see her?
I don't know if I see her. I don't think I see a.
Edith. Yes, I'm
Oh,
here.
There we
oh,
go.
it's you. Okay.
It's
Hi,
me.
Edith.
Yeah,
There we
yeah, I'm here.
go. Wonderful. Well, welcome. I am so, so grateful to have you here with us today. Would it be okay, Joelle, for her to give us a little
Oh,
feedback?
absolutely. I
Okay,
didn't even
okay,
know. I didn't connect the dots.
okay,
It's perfect. Perfect
okay.
segue. All right.
Oh my God. So, of course, you already know you have a beautiful, beautiful granddaughter. It was an honor and a pleasure to meet you as well. Is there anything that you would like to share based upon what you witnessed in the family map and what you've witnessed with your granddaughter, what you witnessed with yourself? Because a large part of the family mapping was about your family, and you were having an opportunity to perceive it from a whole nother perspective. So, is there anything that you would like to share about what you took away from that experience?
Yes, I can be real honest and transparent with the fact that observing my granddaughter and what she was experiencing was really a beautiful and enlightening thing for me. I had never been exposed to family mapping, and I'm real grateful for it. So I thank you, Miss Sandy. I took away some things myself, but more so than anything, I would really like to piggyback off the fact that with my granddaughter, it was very enlightening, very much something that she needed because there were a lot of trouble and painful areas in her psyche, in her being, and she was starting uh, at a pure place of wanting to grow spiritually and become more enlightened, and that really kind of broke a barrier, kind of opened a door for her. I was able to witness it myself firsthand and see it, and I'm real grateful for that for her. Because it's real important. What I did get from it for myself was the importance of heritage and family, and what we talk about, but we really don't know about, is that that harm, that generational harm. We call it generational curses. All those terms we use, and we really aren't even sure or tapped into what we're talking about. Can't really identify with it because we don't have an understanding of it. So the family mapping really, really gives you a real eye opener to, okay, let's look at what's happening, what has happened, and what possibly could transpire because of what has or is happening within our lineage. And that's real important, extremely important for me. I have 15 grands, extremely close to them. Me and Kennedy share very intimate spiritual connection, but not just with her, what I wish for all families, but especially to be selfish and say mine, some healing, some in-depth healing that doesn't keep lingering on to the next generation and the next generation. And this family mapping is a very vital, important avenue for that healing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm,
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, it's so, when you talk about that generational harm, there are things that we assimilated as unharmful that have, in fact, been the most damaging to us in terms of things that we've quantified and justified over the decades of crisis management, let's call it, maladaptions and crisis management that happened over generations and generations to the outcome of the ongoing harms. That's such an important thing because there's shame, blame, guilt, and judgment. And one thing that I appreciate about like the way that you facilitate, Sandy, is that when we talk about the orders of love or the way that creation happens, it's not a moral conversation about were you out of wedlock? Was it to, like what was the narrative around it? It's just about where the pairing and the looking upward, going downward into creation is in alignment or not. So it's restorative because it's not condemning anybody. It's not judging any family members, right? There's a compassionate understanding that comes when you change that perspective through
mm,
the stories that can come forward. It can soften the heart so
yes,
much.
yes. Thank you so much for pointing that aspect out, Joelle, because it's so interesting because, like they say, when you're talking about a penny, so the penny has two sides, but it's still a penny. It does not devalue the aspect that it's still a penny. So if we choose to go down the line of saying, well, the reason that this happened is because my mother or my father did this. Well, what you realize is the more you peer into that situation, you then begin to see, well, their parents did X, Y, and Z. And then when you begin to peer in even more, their parents did X, Y, and Z. So to say that anyone is truly to blame for anything, you could never get to the ultimate result of truly what was this all about. But you can begin to gain understanding into your own personal experiences of life through family mapping. And when you see that, then you can see, well, wait a minute. The perspective that I had about my mother and my father, the way they were, it has to soften my heart, because what comes through in a family mapping is the person whom your anger was geared toward, then you see another perspective about their life. And then, so how can you really be angry and hold such judgment when you realize they were hurt and they were harmed? And so it has to end up begin to dissipate into nothingness, because you're holding the person to blame truly who's blameless. And then you turn around and look at yourself and the choices that you and I have made based upon what we thought was true. And we begin to see that it's not always exactly the way that we thought. So that thing that held things solidly in place, you can't hold it anymore because you have more information. And with more information, an intelligent being decides to change their mind about how they felt, because now you have a little bit more. It doesn't always necessarily make you feel better instantly, but it's a gradual softening of the heart. And as the heart begins to soften, then your awareness can be occupied with all of the many things of love that are right here in our presence. So it's the beginning, it's just the tip of the iceberg that allows everything in our lives to begin to unfold in such a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Well, when she said 15 grandchildren, I'm just seeing the catalyst of that spark that the two of you
Yes.
had together in terms of changing the kaleidoscope just together, one turn. The impact that it has on that whole web of that generation, from your active awareness state as the matriarch, grandmother Edith, like you're still actively embodying that because you're reaching out to develop these relationships with each of them. And so that, like, if each person influences 25 people, I think that was the number like maybe 10 years ago, that's 15 to the 10th power of the way that they can come to understand themselves just from this one constellation
This is the
experience.
success. This is the success of Constellation. It is here, and it is so us collectively, like you said, Joelle, when we shift our perspective ever so slightly, everything shifts. Everything shifts.
Yes. Is there anything that you would want to leave with people, Miss Edith, about family mapping as an opportunity or experience?
Yes, I would, especially from my position as a grandmother, as a mother. I'm even a great grandmother, one, about to be two young ladies.
Congratulations.
And I know within my whole being that it's extremely important to break these barriers down. I like the way y'all broke it down, Miss Joelle and Miss Sandy, in terms of no blame, because this is a no blame thing. I blame my mother. She may have blamed her mother, and on and on and on. And there is no blame. And the compassion has grown in me because I had a very turbulent relationship with my mother. There was hardship. and harm done. And I was real grateful to hear Miss Joelle say that. Even unintentional harm, even things that
Mm.
because we become conditioned to be comfortable with, pain. It's called familiar pain. Is another way we address it in another arena. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not
Mm.
wholesome. It's not loving. And more so than anything else, I go back and forth with my grandkids, and my one thing with them is it's not loving, because if I'm learning nothing else, love is the action word, and I have to invoke that through my being, through expressions. This family mapping is extremely important, extremely important.
Mm.
Every generation, before, now, and after. Yes, very important. I would encourage everybody that knows somebody that has had any inkling of, oh, I saw this or I heard that, or yeah, to share it. Yeah, because that's sharing the love. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that you came on to share. That's
Yeah.
just the perfect, the perfect dynamic duo kind of conversation. I am going to press record just because I'm getting a little issues with the stream, and I do not want to miss any of this conversation. So if it's not going out live, we'll at least have it for posterity going forward. So. All right, Sandy.
Yeah.
So one thing
So,
we've got a male Anthony on with us and
yes.
Jackie still. And so I I'm like one of two minds, but I will defer to you and you're who you want to speak
So
with next.
I am so grateful that Jackie is on the line. Thank you, Jackie. I want us to hear of your experience so bad. I would like to just break up a little bit of the dialogue to bring in Dr. Anthony, who
Yes.
is on the line with us this evening. So, our experience was with a family. So, the two experiences that we've just talked about were with individuals who did not necessarily know each other.
Okay.
Anthony's experience, his experience was a part of a family, like a family who came to me to move through some experiences in life. And Anthony was an in-law to this family. So he was married to the family whose constellation that we were experiencing. And so his experience, it's so interesting that his experience with another family triggered some things in his own personal family.
Wow.
I would like to, if you can hold on with us, Jackie, I would like to bring him in to share with us from his perspective the dynamics of that experience. So, are you available, Dr. Anthony?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not on camera right now. You all probably wouldn't be able to see me because I am at work. So you probably wouldn't be able to see me, but I definitely don't mind sharing my experience at all.
It is perfectly okay. We're grateful that you were able to call
Absolutely.
in and you are available to share with us now. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. We appreciate that.
And I have to say, made me smile when she said you were there with your in-laws because I thought about my premarital counseling sessions before I got married and all of the things that I was unaware of in my ex-husband's family dynamics, right? And even through the discovery of that 6 or 8 weeks, there were some patterns that I was like, huh, like you're already married and now you're in a family map constellation. And there's a whole lot more of interplay, but the interconnectedness that you mentioned, Sandy. But I just had to smile about the thought if people did their mapping sessions before they got married, they might approach relationships from a more healthy place, just in general.
I think so. I think so.
But so, Anthony, how, like, your what did you know about mapping before you came to the session?
So can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
So prior to it, I didn't know anything about family mapping per se. Um, I knew about energy work. I had done Reiki in the past. So I was very familiar with just how energy works. And my background is science. So um, I understand, like, uh, through our DNA, our genetics, like trauma or just life experiences can go back to at least 4 generations. And then, as it relates to like physics, there's a concept called string theory where everything is connected. Like
Mhm.
nothing actually dies. So like every thought, every idea, every person who's lived, their energy just continues to flow and it's always connected to you. So I didn't know anything about family mapping, but I had that as a foundation. So going into it, I was definitely very open.
So you're at some point you began to connect it to your own family through what you were experiencing in the interplay there.
Right. So yeah, it was. So initially, I didn't really know what to expect. I really thought that I was just going there for like my in-laws family. Like this was all about them. And as we were going through it, the fact that things were coming up for me and my family um, was like, one, it was mind blown because I was kind of trying to shy away, but it was coming through, and like the emotion that was connected to it, like, and to be able to to be in that moment and actually feel the connection to my own family, like in that moment, was, I could say that's almost unreal, because it's
Mm.
like the rest of my actual family wasn't there, but it was as if they were. Like I could feel every, like, the experience we were going through, I could actually feel it as if my family was there.
Mm-hmm. Mm. The mind-boggling thing, I think, that string theory that you talk about, that you spoke as a phrase, or the whole quantum entanglement, like the fact that everything is connected. It's
Mhm.
not just like your family and your wife's family, our family in the larger sense. It's like all of us, because we've been in groups of strangers that they might as well have all been actual family member. Like the family structures were so similar for the group that gathered in that time. So it's really no surprise that we partner romantically and in life and in deep friendships with people who mirror our inner environment, right? Wounds and all.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. And I can recall looking at Dr. Anthony and his facial expression, and I was a little kind of like confused on why his facial expression was kind of like one of like puzzling, because this was not his family. He was playing the role until later I realized when he shared with me, oh my God, like what he just shared, like this is my family. Like his family was not present there. This was on the other side. But for him to have had the opportunity to be the nucleus, I'll say, which merged the energies of two polar appearing to be opposites, but actually ended up being the same in a sense. And he was the common denominator, mirroring the thing that he had come from and the thing that he had walked into. That right there was mind blowing to me.
Mm. How do you walk out of that day then, Dr. Anthony? Like what, when you leave the doors from there, your relationship with self is shifted. I'm assuming your relationship with your spouse is shifted, and possibly on every level, layer, and dimension, there were some shifts that happened.
Absolutely, absolutely. It definitely like broadened my understanding of, I'll say, life in general. Because like Sister Sandy was saying, to see how like thinking that this family is, like, opposite from my family, but seeing the correlation there, it definitely changed my perception of life as to see that and to realize, oh wow, like why did God bring me here? And it definitely gave me like a deeper introspection of myself, because to see like why was I connected to this family, and then seeing the similarities, it definitely made me look deeper into myself and wonder, why was I drawn to this family in that way? And it definitely put me on a journey to go after some deeper, darker things in my own personal life and pull those things out of myself to, go after those things that may have hurt me in the past, or may have been something that was related to, my ancestors. Something that I need to face, like something that they had projected years or decades into the future, waiting to conquer. And here I am, like, as an answer to their prayers. So
Yeah,
that's how I, went after it from there.
that's great. You're like the answered evolution, right?
Right.
And you speak about epigenetics, that's, I love
Mm-hmm.
that that term is becoming more commonplace now, to say that our biology cannot be but help to be impacted by our experience. So a generation of famine and stress and nomadism, 200 years later, is felt in the biological processing of the human being in response to that, right? Stressor. So, like the fact that we can actually say, not just physically what you went through, but stress, trauma, holocausts of slavery, of annihilation, those traumas manifest themselves. I mean, and if anything, we can begin to blame systems more than people, in terms of this is what happens and how trauma presents when you have a family that is coming out of poverty and generational, trying to catch up in wealth building, or that is trying to catch up in education attainment, like all those things that in a short period, meaning 8 generations, which is fairly short. A lot of us have 4 and 5 generation families actively living right now because
Mhm.
of youthfulness and compression. So it's not a hard leap to say that the 8 people, give or take 8 generations, could have been in a very real arc of our oral even connectedness now. So that's a lot of activity in our bloodlines. And, I love that you have, people can't see it, but your logo is an atom. with a nucleus of deep green that I just see as the heart chakra, and these beautiful, so it just speaks to that catalyst of why am I created? Why am I in tandem with this other particular atom that I see as a family? So this is just fascinating work, Sandy. It stirs up so many things in a very real way that you apply. Like you don't walk out without applying something you learned in a family map.
Absolutely. I have to give honor to one of my spiritual fathers, which is Dr. Mark Armstrong, that opened up the doors of family mapping to me in a teaching. And this has truly transformed my life, being in the midst of so much energy. I share with people all the time, participants who come, I say, this is something that you've probably never experienced in your life. It won't be something that you can immediately say, oh, okay, now I get life, or now I've got all the answers. No, it's not designed for this. It's designed, as Dr. Anthony shared and Kennedy shared and Miss Edith shared, it begins to allow you to discover more of who you always have been. It just was hidden. And so when you're inside of this environment with us and others come to support you and show up to play whatever role they have been asked to play, it we all come with such an open heart. And that's the part that I really want to lean into. This, I don't call it work, I call it a calling. That all of us, you as well, Joelle, you have a role, just the same way that we show up in a mapping constellation. What we're doing now is we are filling aspects of this huge dynamic of roles, of aspects, of happenings, of unfoldings, of questions, right? We're stepping in the place saying, I will play my role that I agreed eons ago to stand in the gap, to hold this space. And so we do this in love. Sometimes conversations will begin and it's out of anger, which I really want us to bring in Miss Jackie, because some of these conversations will start, you want answers. And I believe that's what she was saying. I just want answers. Why? I just want, and there's a lot of energy around wanting to know. And what happens is that desire for wanting to know, it pulls the energy forth to say, I am here. Now let's talk. And then
Yeah.
it begins to fold out. So this is a wonderful opportunity, I believe, as we segue into our experience with Jackie.
Well, and
Go ahead.
I would say, it is a perfect segue, but I do want to pause back to emphasize one of the areas where there can be a lot of contention develop is the blame between the genders. It was the men's fault who never showed up. It was the women's fault, like part of that blaming. And it's been interesting because there has been literally like one male at each of the maps I've been to, maybe two. And one thing that I think is very important is women sometimes tend to over assert our idea of the masculine experience. And there's just no change for like the Mars Venus thing is real in terms of how we're wired and how we process. So the fact that there have been men there who've been able to be like authentically experiencing not only the family map itself, but the male perspective has been a change. And that's so, so important. So I just wanted to find out if, Anthony, if you, I guess yours was in a family group, so it was a little more planned, probably in balance. But did you have like a gender kind of specific as a male feeling towards the mapping, if you could encapsulate or not?
I'm sure I definitely understand where you're going with that. And I would say this. I think that for us as men, we have to be more participatory in these types of things. Um, and from a male perspective, um, I think a lot of times that we as men have, like, we have trauma, especially in our community. We have things that we've gone through and go through that we're not very open about discussing. So, especially going to an event like this, and like you said, I participated with a family, but going to things like this can be uncomfortable because a lot of times it is predominantly women. So it can be uncomfortable for men oftentimes to to even see this as this is a thing that men can do or men should do. And I think even for myself, like just the hesitation, like as a man, just the hesitation of even participating because society may tell you, hey, men don't do this. Um, so I think that just seeing, like sometimes seeing at least one man there opens the door for other men to accept this and reject um, what society has said that men do and what men don't do. Because I think this is very important for men to heal and go through these things as well.
Absolutely. Now, and are you a father?
I am.
So through the fatherhood prism of being already having created beings in your constellation and masculine as well, did is that did it shift your perspective of what your how you're parenting or engaging with your child or children?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it allows me to be more open and to tap into, because every man has a feminine aspect to himself, just like women have a masculine aspect to themselves. So it allows me to tap into the other side of myself and be expressive, to allow him to allow my son to express himself in a healthy masculine way. Um, and I think that's like going to events like this has allowed me to see like the things that has happened to men in the past and going forward. Hey, this is how we have to evolve. So I'm able to express myself in a masculine way and opening a safe environment for my son to also be that.
Mm.
That's powerful.
That has
That's
to make you feel really.
powerful. I
I
love that.
love the generational, grandmother, granddaughter, father, son, like all of that transfer of wealth.
Wow. That was powerful. That was powerful. Really powerful.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to see here if we can get Jackie off mute here to jump in. Our relationship with parents in living sense is often one of our most growthful arenas, to put it lightly, right? So many of us, and at a certain age, may no longer have the benefit of reconciling our relationship to our loved one due to the fact that they have transitioned from the earthly plane. And so when you have, like you said, anger or unfinished business or unexpressed emotions because there was no relationship there, family mapping can offer some, I can't say it's ease per se, but it is an avenue to approach your healing journey. So let me see if I can get Jackie on here. It says that she's on mute. If you're there, Jackie, can you say
Come on in,
hello?
Jackie. Come on in, honey. We're waiting on you.
Can you hear me?
We can. We're getting a little
Hello?
background. Can you turn off the sound on the computer?
I'm not on the computer. I'm on my phone. Can you hear me better?
Yes, thank you. All right, Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. So, Sandy, what do you remember most or want to? I know we talked about anger. You brought up the anger thing. So, mapping and Jack, who comes into a
Wow. Yes. So you said something a few moments ago, Joelle, that I had not actually literally thought about, and that is the aspect of family mapping that I share very regularly, but it still just is so profound to me when I think about it. When we have relationships with those who have transitioned on, and how sometimes we wish, or sometimes we don't even realize that we wish we could have said certain things and had certain conversations with them before that moment in time happened, that they are no longer here. However, in this particular family mapping, um, surprisingly to me, the essence of a transition parent came up. And it was so beautiful how throughout the play, I like to call it, throughout the process, we were able to have deep, deep conversations that had not ever been had before. So I would like to bring Jackie in to express in her own words her experience with having a conversation. Now let me just preface this, because some people might be like, well, wait a minute. Somebody transitioned and now somebody's having a conversation with somebody who transitioned. Like what does, like, one thing we have to always remember, and I think Dr. Anthony spoke about this, and you as well, Joelle. There is something that is called a morphogenetic field. This field, you can consider to say that it's imaginary, because you cannot, well, you can for those who can see, but most of us cannot see the energy that's still around, that encompasses everything that we ever have been, that we will ever be, and those before us who came before us was in, and experienced. So when we talk about having conversations with those who have transitioned, the energy of them is still present. How do we know? Because we can think about them. We can recall conversations that we had with them. We can recall life experiences that we had. So the presence of them is still very much alive in our own consciousness. So with that having been said, we can just call up the energy of the the person, conversations, circumstances, and situations. I say call up the energy, but just think about it, and then the essence of that, who that person would be or represent, will speak, will show up. And so that's all that I want to say without getting too deep and too technical and too much more. If there's anything else you'd like to preface this and bring Jackie in to talk about her experience, her aha moment, or how she felt going away, walking away from an experience like this, you all go right ahead, and then I'll just add anything else y'all want me to add.
I mean, I think that's a great lead in, Jackie. What I'll leave it up to you to share what you want to share.
Well, first of all, I would definitely like to say that family mapping was an experience of a lifetime, something that I had never experienced, and that has profoundly changed the way I see my family, the way I see myself, and even has allowed me to be able to help my son to see himself in a different way. the major thing that I was able to do is, in my mind, see my family in a way different than how I had always seen them in my mind. I was able to see them, I guess, from a different perspective. And that perspective allowed me to, if you will, soften my heart and see that it wasn't always the way that I thought it was, and that things are different, and that there is no place or reason to try to assess or lay blame on people. Since I have had the mapping, I have to say that it has changed the way I feel about myself. You know, a lot of times when we don't get what we want or what we feel we need from parents or from other people, it can affect how we feel about ourselves. But once you can get answers and get understanding as to what the situation really was versus what you thought it was, it allows for forgiveness. It allows for a place for you to, see yourself even in a different light. So I'm, forever grateful and thankful for that. And it's not something that, there was an instantaneous feeling for me of release of anger and of frustration, but it has been an experience as far as seeing how it affects me daily and how it changes. And I, just speaking on how these experiences how they affect the younger people. When it happened, I told my son about it, and I was expecting him, to give me, the eyebrows and be like, okay, whatever you say. But he was very receptive to it, and I really feel like him hearing it on some level even, brought healing to him, because he addressed some things with me that I didn't even know he had issue with. So it was a great experience. I definitely would, recommend anyone just to get better understanding of family and family dynamics to try to be a part, because it was amazing.
I
Wow.
mean, I have to chime in here because I experienced mapping, and then I was like, everybody that I know and love, I want to go to mapping. So Jackie is one of my best friends. And so, like, the deep pain and anger, like, especially then when her dad died, like, well, now I guess it's, and if you are like, this person doesn't have the capacity really to have been who I thought they should have been. A lot of people have just set that whole thing to this uncomfortable little boxes on the shelf. Like, well, it was what it was. They're gone now. I'll never be able to confront my abuser. I'll never be able to confront the person who harmed me when we were kids. They're gone now. Like all those kind of things that we kind of like, well, I'll just suck it up and bear it. Family mapping has a way for that to come out and to be processed differently for answers, hidden things that you don't even know because they're not in your conscious arena can come up through the mapping process. And partly that's what happened for Jackie, is like context about her father's experience was able to be shown, that was like, oh, okay, I never thought of that, and would never have thought of that had this not been brought forward for my awareness.
Exactly.
Wow. So there's a question that has come up that I'd like to pose, and anyone on the line can actually answer it. But the question is, how can you tell that any of the information coming through is accurate or true? How can you tell that? How do you know that?
Well, so Jackie, when the information about your father came through, what what did it for you?
Well, believe it or not, it was just something very familiar about the way that the questions were answered, the answers that were given, that just made me know that it was from him. I can't really explain it as far as, you know, to make other people understand, I guess. But everybody knows their family, and when you hear something that's said a certain way, or there are certain mannerisms that present, and you feel that person, the essence of that person, and I felt that.
Wow.
I think, Anthony, you said you felt that as well in terms of the the feeling of, oh my God, this is not her family, this is mine, and this is me, this is my side. I don't know if he's still able to be on or not on camera, but so Kennedy, you also said that you recognized energies in a very physical way, that you knew what was happening.
Yes, ma'am. I immediately, when Miss Sandy instructed me to think about the situation that I knew I wanted to, I guess, channel, immediately my sisters, I thought, I don't remember how it went, like explicitly, but immediately I saw my three sisters, my three younger sisters, well, my two younger sisters and my little brother. So I immediately knew when the three people came up. I'm like, oh, this is this is what we're about to get into, and I knew just by the disposition of each person that came up. And even it's odd because the line that they stood in was literally like the sister right up under me, then the one after that, then my little brother. It was kind of like a little slope like that. So I'm like, oh, I already know who this is. And I could tell just by how the sister right up under me, she was very like upset with me. The sister after that, she was very giddy, which is exactly how she is. She's very bubbly. And then my little brother was just like in a daze. So I knew immediately who it was, what the situation was. I was just kind of brace myself for it, but off the rip, I immediately knew.
Mm-hmm. I would say that, so I am adopted. So in my mapping, part of my constellation was my biological mother and father, who are unknown to me, and my biological grandparents, who are unknown to me, and then my adopted parents and grandparents, so um, it was very revealing in a way that when the bell of truth, it goes off in the body, that the mind is not even part of the equation, because you feel it at a gut physical, just like danger. Somebody can be telling your mind everything's okay, right? But the body is like, nah, I need to be on fleek, head on a swivel, right? So it's the same kind of, what is happening? But it's like, no, this is true. This was that, right? And so some of the things that came up for it through mine were interesting and challenging. I haven't broached them in the 3D reality yet, because it gets kind of tricky about having conversations. Like, how do you really be like, so I heard that.
They want to know how did you find that out?
Well, yeah, and that's what we've seen in some of the maps. Like, we've done, like, some of the things that we've been through have been like deeply traumatizing family secrets about people who were not parented by people who they think they were, and inappropriate relationships and things that were hidden. Those things, and affairs, lovers that people didn't know were in existence when they were kids growing up, but when they think back about it, they're like, oh, so and so did come around a lot. Like, all those kind of contextual things that can come out through a family map to really, really be quite shocking. But like, at a truthful level, there was no lie. There was no lie. Even though you may be upset, you don't feel like it's a lie. You
Wow. Wow. I
I
love it.
I want to say share that, everyone here I think has brought such a value to the map conversation, and through what you have shared with those who you care about maps, and the way that it's changed how you're living in the world is really the biggest testimony to the work that you're facilitating, Sandy. I know Jackie and I, and now Tanya, I'm on like my fourth or fifth friend who've had maps or gone to workshops with you. And so our whole conversation about how we see things and the words that we use in orders of love, and all that kind of stuff, it's definitely changed our little molecule of daily kind of best friend circle. I'm actually having a workshop on February 25th. Registration information will be below. It's for only 8 people because it is intense work. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, please definitely check it out. And also on Facebook, coming soon, and on soulwisdominternational.com. Facebook, search for Family Mapping with Sandy Beauford Muhammad. You'll be able to connect with the Facebook page. And then you have information on your Soul Wisdom International page, Sandy, for like the ongoing schedule of maps. Like there's always some kind of mapping work now, it seems, happening, whether it's in a small group or one of the public workshops. And I'm just delighted to be participating at every level that you will give me opportunity to, Sandy.
Oh my God. Well, I'm so grateful to you, Joelle, and your platform, and how supportive you have been for a long time now. I'm so, so grateful for your sisterhood who believes in you and have allowed me to be a part of their lives. I'm so excited for this family mapping that's coming up with you, and you will be continuing to host them. So I encourage everyone to make sure you follow the Viberarian web page, and social media on Instagram page.
Yeah.
Um, Make sure that you follow, and the YouTube channel as well, because here we will also be advertising all of the upcoming family mapping constellation workshops. Um, it has grown beyond my wildest dreams. I never thought in a million years that we would be here. Thankful to you, Joelle, because you pushed forward. You're like, no, we are talking about this. We are bringing it from another conversation of those who have actually experienced this. And so I have gained so much insight from you all sharing so much energy to continue on. And I'm just so grateful for everyone who has stood and said, I'm not quite sure what this is, but I'm willing to walk. And I've been asking these questions. And so I'm willing to discover what this is that I was birthed in, or why all of these different things. It takes uh, a special person to ask these questions and then stand and receive the answers, and then take that information and do what needs to be done for your family. So
Mm.
without all, I I would not be doing this. So I'm so grateful, and look forward to you all telling more people about it, this great, wonderful thing, which is life altering, life changing, as well as seeing y'all again in one of the upcoming workshops.
Yes, wonderful. Everyone, thank you. I wish for you the most beautiful evening, and that your rest of the week is just filled with the abundant support and love for all that you are living and embodying here in this now moment. So, ashe and namaste.
Ashe.
Peace and blessings. Thank you, ladies and
Blessings.
gents.
Thank you.